All right, so my old stomping grounds, man, is Bonne Terre, Deloge, Flat River, Park Hill. Like we used to. My brother went to. Oh gosh, now it just fell out of my head. What was the high school that? If you lived in Bonne Terre, what high school did you go to?
Well, I know there was Bonne Terre High School, but I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think what their Bonne Terre was a little bit. Was it?
Gosh, I can't think of it. But anyway, my brother is the same age as me. It wasn't Bonne Terre, man. It was over in. Man, I can't believe I can't think of that. Anyway, what a small world, because I'm familiar with Mac. I mean, nobody in the world knows what Mac is. I happen to know what Mac is.
So crazy. Yeah, it was the most random thing ever. I remember we had a high school coach, and he actually coached us for Legion Ball, and he was like, yo, man, he had me and a couple of my buddies was like, yo, man, I want to take you guys up to St. Louis. I got a guy that I used to play ball with up there. He's coaching a team, and he'll give you a full ride scholarship. And we were like, yeah, sure. So we transferred up there, and I did it I was there for a semester, and then I actually transferred to Lindenwood University, and I played ball up in St. Louis there for a year, and I just did not like the cold weather. I'm a true Floridian. I am not going to lie. I did not like that cold weather. But
North County. I think this high school is called North County. Does that sound right?
Yes. Well, it's so funny because when we were there, like we didn't understand it because we came from like big city. So we're moving up there, and everyone goes to like the high school football games, and that's like a big ordeal. And we started to know like all the high schools around and stuff, and it was like, man, but that's like varsity blues type stuff. Like the whole city gets involved, the whole town gets involved in it. And it was very, very different for us. But we had a lot of fun up there, and the baseball was good. Huge Cardinal town. God, was it? Been to Kansas City a couple times. We played Maple Woods. And I mean, Kansas City. Missouri was fun. I miss Mardi Gras. I'm not gonna lie, I miss Mardi Gras a little bit. But yeah. Other than that, though, we'll go ahead and we'll get started. I think we're gonna we'll have some other guys, I'm sure, that are jumping on as we're going. But if you want to just kind of introduce yourself, how you got started with the business. Very, very simple. Kind of give you guys a story as to how you guys got started. We'll kind of kick it off and keep going.
Yeah, guys. So I'm not huge on stories. So let me give you the 60-second version of my story, because
perfect.
We're guys and we really don't give a crap. We just want to know how to make money. So here's the deal. My wife has been a top earner with It Works since 2011. So I was a banker by trade. She found this going to a party, man. Came home in 2011. I remember I was laying on the couch watching football. She walks in the door and does one of these like, ta-da, wearing this like WWF belt looking thing. Like I'm supposed to be impressed by that. And I wasn't. And we have 4 kids. We were busy, man. My wife was a stay-at-home mom. We were living the dream that we thought we were supposed to be living. I was grinding it out. I was a vice president at a community bank. I was making $100,000 a year. She was at home with 4 kiddos, so we weren't scraping by, and we weren't living high on the hog. $100,000 a year for a family of 6 isn't. I mean, that's nothing. So it's not nothing, but it's not something either. She happened to find this thing, and I always tell guys, like, I wasn't not supportive of it in the beginning. I just wasn't dialed in. We lived a very, very busy life, and we just didn't have time for this. I mean, we just didn't. We didn't have time for it, and so I didn't pay any attention. And she worked her ass off, and that was her first year in the business. Again, that was July of 2011. By 2012, she was a number 8 earner in the company. She's been a top turn since then. So in January of 2012, she actually went to conference. Convinced me to go along with her. I actually didn't go to conference. I went to play golf with a buddy that lives in Florida, and everything changed from that moment on. She left conference in 2012, that flight home, she was so excited, fellas. I mean, like, it was like nothing I could express to you that would make sense. Like, literally from Tampa to Kansas City, I don't know that the woman took a breath, and she talked nonstop. She was so excited. Her heart was on fire, and it was the type of excitement that is beyond contagious. I couldn't help but be burned by how exciting and on fire she was. And so that would have been January 2012. I joined with her in February. By August of 2012, she was rolling like 40 G's a month, and it didn't take me long to figure out that 2 and a half months, she's making what I made in a year. So time to get on the bandwagon. I can go to banking whenever I need to. So That's really the short story of where we were. So we didn't need it. We weren't looking for it. She went to a party, got wrapped, saw a huge opportunity. I would have never said yes to this as a guy. I would have never been in on this. I say this all the time, and I'll get it out of the way now. I've never been so happy to be so wrong so many times. My wife had a vision I never would have had. I just wouldn't. I was too busy grinding out what I thought was my what was my path in life, man. And I was working my way up that food chain, and I was doing okay. I wasn't superstar, but I wasn't struggling. So, again, 2012 I joined, and by August of that year I left the bank, and we've been working this full time ever since then together. I know some of you guys are rolling the dice on your own. That's a struggle, and I can address some of that too. I've been working with my wife, again, since February of 12, and I can honestly, wholeheartedly tell you that there's nothing in this business today, and hasn't been for 5.5 years, that she doesn't do, that I don't do, and that I don't do that she doesn't do. We absolutely work all aspects of this business together, and we can talk more about that. We have strengths and weaknesses, and I'm a huge advocate of working in your strengths, screw your weaknesses. We can dive into that if you want to, but that's my story in a nutshell, man. Like we're that couple that, like, we sometimes struggle with this because we talk about it. And we're like, we should stop saying this because you get caught up in it a little bit. But we're nothing special, man. We're just two legit people who worked our asses off and saw a vision and focused on it and went for it. We run our business with integrity. We love the Lord. We focus on what's right. We do what's right. We've done what's right from day one. We've never been that flashy all-star team, man. We're just steady Eddie. We've been grinding it out. We're that 2 to 3 steps to success a month. We've always been that. We've always taught that. And we've had months where we've recruited 30, but you know what? Consistently, we're like we do 5 to 10 a month on the DT side, and we complete our steps to success. So, I mean, legit, I can tell you, and I mean this sincerely, that you can literally get to the top of this organization by doing exactly what they tell you to do. I mean, I think sometimes you hear it a lot, like focus on the steps to success, that's what's going to get you there. And sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. I think we feel that way. But the truth of the matter is, man, you keep grinding it out and it will pay off. And the tricky thing about this business is, man, it's such a law of numbers. It's such a law of numbers, man. You can recruit, 1 out of 100 people is going to be worth a turn. And that one person may come on person number 2, and it may come on 102. You just never know. And you got to keep grinding. So in a nutshell, that's where we started. That's where we are. My wife and I, we have a lot of fun together. We're very bold personalities. We're both very red, which makes for some flashy fights in the household. But we have fun, man. We rock it out. We're legit. We're just real people. Nothing over the top fancy. We just we grind it out, man. We just do. So that's my intro. What do you got for me, Johnny? What do you want me to speak on?
So kind of going into how you were talking about your weaknesses, how you focus on your strengths. I'm a huge advocate in that. I believe that you should focus on your strengths for sure. Do you guys kind of implement layered leadership to kind of focus on your weaknesses? And then not only just that, just kind of a side question, when do you take time yourself to focus on actually building your weaknesses? Like, do you do that in downtime, or do you – yeah, I know.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you my 2 cents on that. It may be different from yours.
Sure.
So I believe those are 2 questions, so I'm going to answer them separately. I believe leadership happens on its own.
Okay.
I believe you can foster it to some degree, but I subscribe to the notion that people are either leaders or they are followers. There really isn't a lot of in between. And you can hone in on some of your leadership skills. You can dial in on some things that you are naturally gifted at. I think you can become a better leader, but I think people that are those true, dynamic, in front of the crowd, the guys that when it hits the fan, they're in the front and everybody's rallied behind them, and you're born with that. And you can dial in on it. You can schedule that up a bit, but by and large, leadership, man, you can learn some traits. You can become a better leader, and I think there's to hedge that statement, there's 1,000 different types of leadership. We could talk about servant leadership. We can talk about leading from the front. We can talk about grinding from the front. There's a lot of different types of leadership, but I think that we come out pre-programmed with a lot of that skill set. We can dial it in, but as far as layered leadership goes, I know people will debate this. I think you can help foster it by understanding human nature, understanding personalities, and challenging and lifting people up in the right way. But I truly believe that layered leadership will emerge on its own. People will, you get those people in that want to get out, grind, and step up and lead. They're going to. You're not going to suppress that person. So in a sense, it happens on its own. I don't think you can take a person who just genuinely doesn't have the heart, passion, or skill set to lead and make them a leader. It doesn't work like that.
Agreed.
But again, I'll hedge that statement by saying that there's 1,000 different types of leadership. And so there are different times and places for different things. Winston Churchill is probably remembered as one of the greatest leaders in the history of the world for most people. But until World War II, until that dude faced real adversity, he probably wasn't seen that way. He was put up against the wall. He was squished down. He had a lot of terrible things happen, and that dude emerged as a leader. And so, but I would argue that was in him. It was in him. He just had an opportunity to rise out when it happened. So I think layered leadership happens, and I think it's something that you have to help foster. And the way you help foster it is by being open to it. So we've never rejected it. We've always encouraged it, because I feel like just like raising kids, like we've got 4 kiddos. I didn't say this. We're from Kansas City, Missouri. We've got 4 kiddos, 12, 10, 8, and 6, 2 boys, 2 girls. So we live a busy life, man. And so just like raising kiddos, I feel like it takes a village. Just like running this business, it really does take a village. And here's why. Johnny is not everybody's cup of tea. Quintin is not everybody's cup of tea. We're those loud, bold personalities kind of in your face. I'm just going to tell you like it is. Those red personalities. Well, those reds are going to crush those yellows, man. They're going to drive those greens crazy. You know what I mean? And so we really have to have all those different personality types to make the world work. And so when you've got this bold, dynamic red Quintin, you definitely need the detailed greens and the yellows that are going to make people like, oh, he hurt her feelings. Let's go soften that out. I think the world needs all that. So layered leadership is going to help. It's going to exist on its own. You can help foster it by understanding personalities and people and how to lift them up and how to challenge them. Everybody's a little bit different. So that's my 2 cents on layered leadership. You asked, the second part of your question was, when do I take time to work on my weaknesses? Was that your second question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The answer to that is never. I do not do that. I don't waste time on working on my weaknesses. I feel like we get 24 hours in a day, bro. I'm good at a few things, and I want to be really good at those few things. And so I don't waste time trying to get my Fs up to a D. I really don't. I take and focus on my A's and make them A+. I take my B+ and make them A's, and I hire out my Fs. That's how I handle that. I surround myself with people to fill the voids on my weaknesses, because I truly believe we're so pre-programmed, man. You can do a better job on some of your weaknesses, but your weaknesses will always be your weakness. And here's the truth.
I agree. A
lot of your weaknesses are your strength. My strength is also my weakness. And so why am I working on my weakness? I'm not. I'm going to hone in on that strength, and I'm going to surround myself with people to fill the void on my weakness.
I agree with that.
Not everybody's going to agree with that.
I definitely agree, because what I've come to learn is like I feel like I don't remember who it was. I think it was either Dave Ramsey or it was Grant Cardone, and he said one of the biggest things that he's learned is that, again, you don't spend time focusing on your weaknesses. The most successful people in this world do is they find a couple of things that they do, and they do them really, really well, and they learn to perfect them. So instead of learning how to do 10,000 things really good, you learn how to do a couple of really good things 10,000 times, so to speak. Yeah. And that's how I will definitely agree with that. Now, kind of going back onto how you were talking about personality types, and guys, anytime that anybody mentions it, I always tell everybody, learn your personality types. It is huge, because it is all in how you're determining on how you're talking to people. Learn your personality types. If you haven't done a personality test, there are several. I don't remember. It's like Oscar or something, but it's 4 basic colors. It'll tell you what you are, and again, it's very, very huge. But going into so how do you guys determine who your leaders are in your organization? And by that, obviously the personality types does play a big role. Is it just something where it's people are just stepping up, and if they want it, they want it, and if they don't, then it's just one of those things where it's like, it is what it is, and you just kind of focus on the people that are really stepping up, so to speak?
Yeah, so I'm going to push back on you a little bit because I know you can handle it. I feel like that's a management question. Like you're asking me a question like how I'm managing, and I don't manage. I just be me. And I think that's a mistake a lot of people get into is they start trying to manage people. Well, nobody signed up for a multi-level marketing to get managed by somebody. Like we did a call a long time ago called Manager of Me. The only person you need to be managing is yourself. We get paid to do 2 things in this business. 2, only 2. That's it. You only get paid to recruit distributors and get our products on people. That's it. That's all you get paid to do. You don't get paid to manage people, right? And so when people are like, oh, I'm struggling, or I need to fix my business, my first question is, well, how many people did you rep? How many people did you recruit last month? I didn't ask who you managed, right? So we've never looked at it like that. We've never looked at how we go about managing or fostering leadership. We've never done that. We've always also, and this maybe this is an important role, and I just kind of underestimated, John, is again, we've always subscribed to the notion of it takes a village. So I really have always wanted people to step up. Like I've never been the guy like, hey, follow me, follow me, follow me. That's never been our style. We've always been very accommodating. I tell this to our team all the time. Our very first team page that we had, man, it had at least 12 ambassadors on that page before that page split out. That's a big community, guys. I mean, there's like 10 or 11,000 people on it, 12 ambassadors. That was before people started branching out and doing their own thing. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make now is they try to do their own thing. Like, you all need to stick together. Like, I'm telling people all the time, like, all the people are so distracted, man. This business is life, is all about distraction, managing those distractions. And I feel like in this business especially, like, people are so fixated on wanting that ego, that spotlight, that limelight, that title, that leadership. In the very beginning, it wasn't like that at all, man. We were all just trying to learn and figure it out together. So it was a much more communal sense. Like, it wasn't how we fostering leadership. It was like everybody together going, let's figure this out together. Let's build this sandcastle together, And so we've never looked at it in the beginning. I shouldn't say never. We didn't look at it like, how do we focus on leadership? I truly believe, like I can see Jonathan Garrigues in here. Like, him and his wife are leaders, man. They step up and lead on their own. I don't have to foster them doing it. Like, that's in them. They're made that way, and their business reflects it. And so I don't have to seek a Garrigues out. They step up and emerge.
Sure. I definitely understand what you mean. And when you're talking about people stepping up, obviously you do want to make sure, the people that are stepping up, I'm trying to think out the best way that I want to put this, or how I kind of want to ask it. When you have people that are stepping up, when do you feel is the best time that they do kind of separate off and do their thing, to where it's not necessarily separating off from leaving the team, so to speak, but when do you feel that it is the right time for them to kind of step into that ambassador role if that's what they're going for?
Yeah, never. I really don't. If I could still be part of our original team page, I'd still be there, man. I genuinely mean that. I'm not just feeding you a line.
Sure.
And I say cleave to your ambassador upline as long as you can. And here's why, man. There's strength in numbers. There's power in the number of excitement when people are together in community and things are popping and people are going. And look, you're going to communicate to people in a different way than I am. Bill's going to say something different. Everyone's so different, and everyone feels and receives so differently that it takes so many different people. So I'm a huge advocate of staying together as long as you can. Like, and maybe that's part of what my mindset is. We've always led, I guess, with an open door policy. Like, we wanted people to lead with us, so they didn't really feel a need to branch out because it was always theirs also. Does that make sense? We've worked hard to keep that feeling. So I know people will have personality clashes, and sometimes like, I want to do my own thing because I don't like what you're doing. That happens occasionally. But look, man, I respect the leadership and ideas of people all the time that I disagree with. Just because they're doing it different doesn't mean that they're doing it wrong. And so I've never been an advocate of like, ooh, let me pull all mine right here and keep it in my secret little fort. Now I know people will disagree with that. I understand why they do. There's, not everybody's full of integrity. I get it. But I feel like when we surround ourselves with the right people and enough of them, the people who don't have integrity, that stuff you're worried about will weed itself out. It will happen on its own. And so, I'm a big fan of leading together. I really am. I'm just a big fan of that community.
Understandable. No, I completely understand. And when you're trying to think, I'm looking at some of my questions here, kind of going through. When you're talking about so we're talking about core values as far as with your organization, so to speak. This question I wrote down was kind of confusing. I don't really. How do you covered that one. All right, going into. Let's do. What do you think is the biggest mistake that a new DT makes? From the start.
That's easy. There's two things. People wait too long to get their head out of the sand. Those people are like, well, I got to wait for my kid to come in before I start working is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. So I think that people wait too long to go, and they wait too long to know. I feel like the day you sign up with this business, you know everything you need to know about it to go be successful. And so what happens too often is I see too many people get in here and they feel like they got to learn all this stuff. I got to watch these videos. And here's the thing. Again, 6 years ago, it wasn't like that. Because I said this before. It's nowadays, it's I kind of visualize. I'm a visual guy. So I imagine I'm walking up to these huge weeds, and these weeds are as tall as me, so I cannot see past them, right? And when we joined this business 6 years ago, it's man, you walk up to these weeds, and you're looking like, crap. Well, I guess I better find my own way through these weeds. And you just dove in and started going, right? I just started figuring this stuff out. Well, nowadays, it's totally different. We've had so many people with so many success stories, and they've all done it in similar ways, but a lot of different ways. You walk up to these weeds. They're the same weeds, man. But you're walking up to them now, newbies, and they look, and there's the path, and there's the path, and there's the path, and there's the path, and there's the path. And you're like, well, shoot, I don't know which path to take. So I'm going to walk down this path. I'm like, I don't know. This path didn't cross this path. Well, I'm going to walk down this path. It's there's so many paths through the weeds now. People are lost in the weeds.
Sure.
And so there's so much information. There's so many things that we're telling people to watch, listen to, Zooms, calls, corporate calls, videos, your EC training. There's so much stuff that people walk up to the weeds and screw it. That's too much. I don't know. It's too much. So I feel like people are inundated with too much information, or they think they have to know too much information. So they're running down all these paths, right? They're watching these videos, they're attending these Zooms, they're listening to these calls, they're watching the training, they're all these special things, man, and they're completely overwhelmed, and they're becoming professional acquirers of knowledge, and they never do anything. They feel I made a video called I don't remember what I called it.
I think it was 2 months ago when you made it. I remember this.
Yeah, the danger. I don't remember what it was. The curse of good. I don't remember what I called it, but. And what's tricky about it is all that stuff is good information. It's legit good stuff. But people are inundated with good. The dangers of good are terrible. And they feel like they're working when they're watching Zooms and listening to calls and they're not doing anything. Again, I go back to, you only get paid to do two things. So the day you signed up, you already knew how to do those two things. Go get a rap on someone. There's nothing magical about that, right? You can figure that out. That's all you need to do. In fact, when we sign people up, dude, we don't talk about anything at all, except for go get your first loyal customer. That's the only thing we talk about. We don't talk about the business. We don't talk about all these long-term plans. All we talk about is your first 4 loyal customers. That's it. Nothing more. Your business was built around speed. And somewhere we lost that. The idea that we get going, we get those 4 loyal. The steps to success are legit. And people think they have all this magic rhythm outside of them. And there really isn't. You really have to focus on Get your damn customers. Get those people enrolled as distributors. You got to talk about the product, talk about the business. And then guess what? Talk about the product and talk about the business. And then guess what? Talk about the product and talk about the business. I'm not talking about the right shirt. I'm not talking about the right video. I'm not talking about the right event. No, I'm talking about you do two things. And so people get in and they overwhelm themselves, or they just get overwhelmed, or we overwhelm them, and they don't do anything. The two biggest mistakes are they wait and they do stuff that's not paying them money.
Agreed. I definitely agree with that. I say preach, but I kind of preach to our team. When you're getting started in anything, and it's not even just with this. Like my network alone is a massive network marketers. And I always tell everybody, if you want to be successful in whatever you're doing, stop listening to all the information out there and find one or two mentors that really that complement your style and what you agree on, and just go with it. Listen to what they have to say, because the problem is when you're getting poured into from 10 different people, like you just said, especially as a new distributor, you don't want to start because it's overcomplicating things. And when you guys are getting, obviously you said when you guys are getting your new DT started, you're getting them started with their first 4 loyal customers, and that's what you're focusing on. After that, do you guys have like an incentive for them as far as like, okay, once you get your first 4 loyals, then we'll get you added to the team page, then we'll get you added to the team chats? Or do you guys just kind of throw them to that from the start so that way they have that information available? Or is it something where it's literally like incentive for them, like, yo, once you get your first 4 loyals, then we'll get you added to those pages so that way you can focus on other aspects of the business?
Yeah, that's a really good thought. I've never thought of doing it that way. When we sign them up, we encourage them to only go after those 4. We do add them to our team page right then, but that's an interesting thought. We do incentivize them once they're signed up. We say, hey, if you go out, you've got 72 hours to get these 4 loyal customers. Find someone who owes you a favor, who loves you, trusts you enough to do you a favor. We're not teaching you to grow your business that way, but 4 people in your world to say, hey, man, like try a wrap, buy some greens, buy some fat fighters. If you don't know 4 people in your entire life, then you're in the wrong gig. So we say, hey, that's not how long term we're going to teach you to grow your business, but from the start, let's get that going. If you can get those in 72 hours, we'll get you a t-shirt, something like that, a corporate gear. But no, I've never used the team page as an incentive itself. That's an interesting thought.
Just, I know we've always been kind of that way, because we feel like if we kind of throw them out there, it throws too much information on them.
Yeah.
They start scrolling through, and then they're asking us about distributors, and we're like, no. You sign a distributor right now, you're not even going to be able to fast start if you do it, because you need to be focused on the customer aspect of it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. I'm not against that.
Yeah. Just a little bit, something a little bit different. That's something that we've kind of done. We won't even add them to the group chats. Like, to be honest with you, we went one-on-one with you. Go get your customers, because just like what you just said, if you can't get 4 loyal customers from the start, you're not going to be successful in this business. So for me, it's one of those things where then you're going to end up sending me and asking me questions, and it's all about leveraging time, and that's one of the biggest things that we've learned. What behavior do you feel has derailed most leaders from their organization? What do you think? I know kind of a little bit of a different aspect. What do you think has derailed though most leaders from their organization to where it's just a mistake as a general, just something that you would tell them to avoid as a whole?
Well, I don't think a lot of leaders have derailed their organization, first of all. So I think that question is an interesting question, but I think it's a very targeted and small percentage of the population. I would go back to what I was saying earlier. I feel like now more than ever, people try to cut their ponies from the herd before they should. Every stinking Ruby and Emerald out there thinks they need their own team page or group thread, and they just don't. It's another distraction. So, it depends on how you're defining leader when you say that. But I think that they cut their ponies they try to cut their ponies. It's the idea of having my own team and my own thing sounds good in theory, but the reality is it's much more responsibility than you need to have. And so that's why I say it's much more. I don't even understand. I mean, besides ego, I don't know why people want to do it. I've never had that desire, because I want people around me, because people, it's like this, man. I can say one thing, you can say the same thing, John can say the same thing, and then here comes Dave, and he says the same thing, and oh my goodness, it's the biggest thing they've ever heard. They've heard it 4 times from 4 different people, but now that Dave said it, it's all the rage. And so, yeah, Dave's good. And so that's why I feel like the more the merrier, man. You gotta. That's so true. It happens. I see that at every event. You know, all these quotes and sayings and all that stuff is just like, man, it's like it's just been replayed thousands of times. But you know what? It just takes that right person to hear it from that right person, and boom, it sets something off in them. And so I think the biggest mistake is when you try to put yourself on an island. We were never made to survive that way. And so I don't want to beat the community horse.
No. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But now, as far as touching like on that, replication is obviously a big point in that. You want to make sure that everybody's kind of on the same page and everybody's doing things together, because if you are getting to where you're having people coming to you with conflicting and wondering why you're telling them one thing and then other people are telling them something completely different, that's where you kind of get into that ballpark of where it's like, okay, so as far as going into more replication, is that where you feel like the replication process really starts to take place and where you do really start to leverage your time is by having?
Yeah, I mean, we're all saying the same thing and we're teaching the same thing and it's happened in the same way. I think that's huge. But I think that's the way corporate leads us. You know, you're not hearing different messages from corporate. It's the same thing over and over and over. They may put some different frosting on that cupcake, but it's the same cupcake, guys. And so we try to do the same thing. We keep the message the same. I guess the other thing I could see that people do that I don't like is or a mistake that they make, and I see this mostly at Diamond, is that people get this I've arrived mindset, and they switch from working to managing. So we kind of talked about that earlier, but I think that's a huge detriment to their business and their organization is when they switch from that worker to manager mindset. And I see it mostly at Diamond, like, oh, I've arrived. And which is crazy because Diamond's when you should start working your can off because you've got those Diamond bonuses, and that's when coding is going crazy. That's when you start making the real money, legit, and you control the money you're making. And so it's weird. It's the exact opposite of what it should be. People should, when they should hit diamonds, when they should hit that overdrive. And that what I see is people start coasting like they've arrived or something, and they start managing and their business falls apart. I mean, I can't even know. The last time we had our diamonds page was up to 800 and something at one point. And we split it all up. But yeah, we've got, I don't know, last time we had 30 something ambassadors under. So there's a lot of layered leadership, you know. And I don't even know how many of those diamonds are still going, you know, just because I seen it a lot. They get in that management mode. That's a big mistake. So I'd add that one to the list.
Of course. Now, management mode in general, I always tell everybody this, guys. If you guys are unaware of what management mode is, just understand this: it's the recipe for burnout. When you go into management mode, and I always tell everyone, there's a difference between leading, there's a difference between mentoring, and there's a difference between managing. Those are two completely different things. I feel when you're managing, it's like what Quintin said. You got that. We all know what a manager is. It's that douchebag that stands over you at your corporate job who tells you, hey, did you do this? Did you do that? That's not what you want to be doing. If you're having to do that to your organization to push them, again, at the end of the day, you can't believe in somebody more than they believe in themselves. You can't want this more than they want this, because if that's what the case is, what you're going to find yourself to where you're not able to work your business, and you'll get super stressed out and start pulling your hair out. That is for sure. I will definitely agree with that. Can you touch on the importance of events? I feel like I like to touch on that because we got started from an event. Carrie and Tay, that's our ambassadors. They had actually hosted with Jess Siegler last year. They had hosted a One Team One Mission here in Tampa, and I hadn't caught the vision yet. Yeah. I went to an event and I was like, okay, it's just something about just getting a group of people together in a room that really makes you like catch the vision. Can you touch on the events?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really simple. There's like 30 people on this. How many of us ever sit in our car and listen to our favorite music, your favorite rock band or your favorite country music artist or your favorite rap artist or whatever it is? I mean, you're sitting in there and you're just busting the beat out yourself or rocking and rolling and jamming out, right? And it's having a good time, right? Well, how many of you have gone and seen your favorite band live in concert? And you're like, oh, yeah. I'm not just listening to it and rocking out by myself. I'm with, 20 other thousand people going nuts, crazy. Man, I'm watching these guys sweat and bleed and just pound it out on stage. And you're like, you can't help but be sucked into that energy, right? It's a total different vibe from sitting in your car, listening to that MP3 player in your ears, man, or you're listening on your tunes when you're running. It's my favorite song. But I go see that live. Like, I love Rage Against the Machine, man. Like, I love it, and I can get amped up with it. But you put me back in the day, you put me in a Rage concert live, you're like, right? You just can't help but be sucked into that awesomeness. And so it's no different. And I think there's also value in this. Again, I believe no man is an island. There's a Christian band called 10th Avenue North that sings a song called No Man is an Island. God didn't create us to be that way. He created us to be communal people. And so when we're living that isolated solitude life, that's what the enemy wants you to do, man, because he can jack with you when he gets you in that place. And so going to events not only is really putting you in the forefront of that energy experience, like there's no substitute for raw energy and excitement. My dad used to say there's no substitute for horsepower, son. No substitute for raw horsepower. The same is true for energy and excitement. There's no substitute for that. And when you're there and when you can feel it and smell it and taste it and be a part of it, it's in you, man. It affects you in a different way. It affects you in here, not just here or here. Like, you can feel that energy. It's something special. And so I think that's part of it. And then secondarily, I think it's hugely important, going back to what I was saying in the community sense, it's hugely important to be around like-minded people, because let's be honest, what we do, people doubt. What we do, people hate on. What we do, people don't understand. I was all that, right? I thought network marketing was for people who didn't know better. Honest to goodness, I thought that. And so that's what the world thinks. And so we're constantly getting our balls stepped on. People are hitting us and beating us down, right? Telling us that we're stupid or telling us that that pyramid scheme. We hear it all the time. And so, look, sometimes you got to reset the mechanism. If you're a Kevin Costner baseball dude, you got to reset the mechanism. Drown the noise out. Get around people who build you up, who are like-minded, who can fill your cup back up, man, because we get drained. And so I think events do two things. They give you that vision, that excitement that you can smell, you can taste, you can touch, you can feel. And they also put you in and around like-minded people to support you, to lift you up, to let you know that you're not alone. They're huge. And I don't care if that's huge corporate events or monthly team meetings or even Zooms can do it to some degree, but you got to get around like-minded people. And events are huge for that.
I think the Zooms are what fire me up. That's what I literally was like, you know what? I just got to start doing men's Zooms just so that way it gets me fired up to want to be here and to be able to help people and pour into them and be able to make connections with people and have them pour in as well. Plus, it's a learning experience. And like you just said, when you get a group of people together, man,
and speaking of men, like, y'all may or may not know this. Like, I think there was maybe 6 of us, maybe 8. I don't remember the number. That like we were all sitting around talking, and we're like, man, it's a tough gig to be a dude in this business. And so we're like, why haven't we started our own group? These are people from different. So like me and like 8 other dudes started the Man Cave, like 2012 or 13. I can't remember when it was. And that's part of the reason we did that. Exactly what you're talking about. You've got to get around like-minded people. The struggle for a dude in this business isn't always the same as the struggle as the women. Just the same as their struggle is the same as ours. And so it's nice to be in a group of guys who you can talk the way you need to talk, not worry about hurting feelings, and just relate and experience on a different level. I know I don't have to explain that to you. Y'all know what that means. And that's why we started the cave. So why is it important for a dude to be part of the cave? Well, why is it important for you to go to events? It's kind of the same reason. You got to get around like-minded people, man.
Speaking on that, now naturally, of course, we all do kind of work the business. We all work the business very, very similar to the women. Just like, we all have to work the business. We've all got the same responsibilities. What do you feel that you've had to do a little bit differently than, say, Lori may have had to do whenever she was approaching people? Do you feel like there was ever differences?
Oh, gosh, that's a great question, actually. And I would say my answer to that has changed over the years. So I work my business significantly differently now than I did back in when I first started. So when I first started, of course, no one knew what black, green, and bling was. And so, I did things like I'm a pretty bold personality. I can handle you guys want to toss some crap at me. I can handle it and toss it back. And so I would do things to put myself in a position for guys to do that to me. And, I would put green shoelaces in my golf shoes, or I would wear a stupid hat, or I would do things intentionally because I knew the circle of guys that I rolled around with would toss crap at me. And that when they did that, it gave me an in to start either a debate or a conversation, And so I was never really addressing them for the business. I was really more, I have always approached it in a similar fashion that, I believe this is a largely female business, and I'm not afraid of that. I think guys can come in and they can be successful, and I think there's a place for us men, so don't hear that differently. But I've kind of always worked, men speak numbers and women speak product, and I've always talked to guys about numbers. I've always talked numbers with them, and every man has a woman in his life, whether it's a mom or a sister or an aunt or a girlfriend or a wife. And so, she's going to be interested. And this was, when I started, we didn't have as many, our product line was a little different too. And so, it's become a little bit easier for a guy to talk to other guys. But in the very beginning, I talked about money, and I put myself in a position where guys would challenge me, and so that I could give them an opportunity to look, hey man, look what my wife is doing. It was my wife. And then I kind of morphed into what we're doing together and how we're doing that. And then after that, I do all of our, I'm kind of like the bird dog. I don't do all of it. I do most of our recruiting, and most of the recruiting I do online, especially as Lori herself. So I'm not doing it as Quintin. I'm doing it as Lori. So even the way I'm working this business today is different than the way I worked it even in the middle or at the beginning, and it's different than probably most of you work it. And there's no right or wrong answer to that. I've just found that that's what works best for me and for us. We've had more success with that. But I think that as a guy in this business, you just got to find what works for you. In the beginning for me, it was just putting myself in conversations with guys to have that uncomfortable jab, that uncomfortable sparring match. Because they want to throw darts, and then when I'm like, hey, these darts aren't sticking because you're grinding away for your $40,000 a year, and my wife made that last month. You throw your darts, bro, because I can buy you some gold ones if you need it. I mean, what do you want to do here? So I think that once the guys got to that idea where we got past the idea. And again, I think for me, I was a skeptic. I didn't believe in the product or the business or any of that stuff. And so for me, I have always gone right at the objections, the elephant in the room, the skeptic, because I was that guy. So it's really easy for me. I just own it. I'm like, look, man, I know you think this is crap. I know you're tired of seeing stupid stuff on Facebook all the time that you think is overstated and never works. And most of it is, you're right. But let me tell you, it's not all that way. And we're living proof of that. So there's a lot of different ways to work this business. And I want to tell all you guys, there's no right or wrong way. You just have to actually go do it. And the mistake, there's so many ways to encourage guys. That's why I think the cave is necessary. Some of you guys are out there working it on your own. Some of you guys are still standing in your wife's way. Some of you guys are out there working it with your significant other. So you're all at different places, and there's different strokes for different folks. I think most guys in the beginning, most, not all, just need to get out of the way. If they just get out of their woman's way, that'd be 90% of the battle right there. But for some of these guys, they're starting out and they're wanting to make a run of this on their own, and I absolutely think they can do that. It's a different battle. It's a different challenge, and you have to approach it in different ways, but it's absolutely manageable.
I completely agree. You have any blitzing tips? I get asked that probably more than anything. I feel like.
Let me ask you a question. I'm going to turn my question back on you.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to give me a false answer. I don't think you will. How long have you been doing this, Johnny?
11 months. 11 and a half months.
All right, so let's call it a year. In a year, how many people have you signed up from cold blitzing someone?
I have not signed anybody. I have signed a lot of people from my warm market. I will tell you that.
No, that's the answer. Did you all hear that? So we all focus so much on blitzing cold people. We talk about that a lot. We have a blitz card for it. We make that a focus point of what we're doing. But if you all actually went and sat down and filled out a hundreds list, like seriously did this, not just talked about it, but actually wrote down 100 people that you know, and you didn't blitz a single person until you have actually spoken to all 100 people on that list, I guarantee you will have 1,000 times more success with that first, which again, I will argue that your hundreds list has to morph and morph and morph and morph and morph. But the first hundreds list, if you genuinely filled it out and you genuinely spoke to every human being on that list, you will make more money and progress in that one original list than you will in your entire career blitzing.
So
100%.
So you're talking about that. You're like, when we all get started, the very first thing we do, of course, we want to develop that hundreds list. You're talking about really putting emphasis on that original first 100, the first people that come to mind, because that's your
one market.
That's your true one market.
Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to talk about that because that's like old school, right? That's old school MLM. That's an old school pyramid mentality. Well, guess what? Your circle of influence is the people who know you and who you can communicate with the best. I'll take warm or even lukewarm leads every single day versus nasty old cold leads on the internet or I'm walking up to who have no attachment to me. They know nothing about me, and they probably have something sucky going on in their life that they just want to be a jerk. And they just want to take their anger out on some random dude that's bothering them about some crazy rap. You calling me fat? Is that one of them pyramid schemes? You know what? Blitzing is not for the meek. And so here's my best blitzing tip. You want to hear it? Go work your damn hundreds list.
Yeah.
That's my best blitzing tip.
I love it. No, I love it. That's the truth. I will tell you, being a bartender coming from bar industry and whatnot, I don't have a problem striking up a conversation with somebody standing in Starbucks waiting in line. It kind of drives me crazy. I feel like I've bought like 300 Blitz cards and I've never sold. I've never made one sale. I've never signed anybody from a Blitz card. But again, though, me personally, though, I agree with you. Blitzing somebody out in public that you do not know is no different than you sending somebody a cold message on the internet. What's the response that you get 99% of the time? You don't get a response. Yeah. No, you don't. Exactly.
And look, man, and I'm going to tell you that as you work through your business, talking to people, blitzing is such a general term, all right? But in the term that we're talking, in the sense that we're talking about today, it's really, we're talking about cold market people. Blitzing is an over focus. It really just is. I think there's a place for it. I think it should be, as you mature in your business, you have to find a way to broaden your approach. And some people are like, well, you got to get out there and just start blitzing people. Well, yeah, or you got to figure out a way to expand that list. And you keep morphing and adding to that hundreds list because you meet people all the time that are going to be in that lukewarm category. Again, I'll take the lukewarm over ice cold every single day of the week. I mean, I'm telling you, dude, we've been at this for 6 years, and I'm not sure we've ever signed anyone off of a cold blitz.
Yeah, no, it just doesn't happen. This business is built on building relationships.
Yep.
It is built on building relationships. I agree with that 100%.
So make a T-shirt that says, my best blitzing tip is to work your damn hundreds list. That's the T-shirt we need.
I'm gonna have to send that one to corporate. That one would probably be corporate approved. That would be awesome. Oh my goodness. All right. I just want to hear your response on this. How do you inspire people to work their business?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I think we place too much emphasis on trying to motivate people to work.
Sure.
Here's the thing. It's our business is just like church. It's just like baseball. It's just like life. It's just like your work before. It's like everything else. 10%, maybe, if you're lucky, maybe 10% people do anything. And the other 90% aren't worth a turd. And that's just how the law of existence works. And so we spend so much time on motivation, inspiring people to work. And it's our human nature to always focus and invest in the ones that are never doing anything. It's the craziest thing. Like we want to, I made a video about this too. Like I feel like it's part of the way the enemy works at us to focus on the negative, right? And this is kind of the same thing. Like to focus on the ones that are doing nothing. And there is value in the ones who are like, I don't need to focus on Jonathan because Jonathan's out there humping it out. There's some legitimacy to that. But at the same time, I genuinely believe the best way you can motivate and inspire people is to lead from the front, to show them it can be done. Because I'm never going to convince you that something is right for you. The only person who's going to do that is you. So, look, Lori says it all the time. I'll walk with the walkers, I'll run with the runners, but you'll never catch me sitting with the sitters. Won't do it. And so I can't inspire you to do anything. All I can do is show you, hey, it's possible. Quintin's doing it. Johnny's doing it. They're nothing special. Maybe a couple loudmouths, but they're out there doing it. Does that inspire you? I don't know. Does that motivate you? Maybe. I think there's some value in motivation. But here's what the real value is, guys. I don't worry about motivating and inspiring people. I push people to be disciplined because motivation is fleeting. Inspiration is fleeting, but discipline sticks. We can get people to become disciplined in a routine with their business. Discipline wins out over motivation every single day of the week. Every single day. Every single day. And if we can teach people discipline, we don't need to inspire them.
I agree with that. I like that quote. Discipline leads over motivation. That's for sure. Now let me ask you another question too, because you guys have been in the business for a little while. How do you lead through change? And by change, I mean so obviously the business is somewhat kind of changed where it's gone through stuff as far as like Facebook algorithm changes to people using Facebook ads, to people using different marketing techniques. How do you kind of embrace those changes from a leadership perspective and be able to effectively implement that throughout your organization without people like running around like, holy shit, what's going on here? Why are we doing this? Why are we making these changes?
Yeah, that's a big question. There's a lot of moving parts to that. So first of all, I feel like the ones who cannot embrace change will die on the vine, period, in a conversation. You have to learn to change and adapt to this business. When we started, every week Facebook is different, as an example. I mean, literally, it's always changing. But you know what's not changing? Your ability to speak to human beings around you. So we worry so much about all of this changing environment, and I think that's relative. You've got to understand that social media is a branch of your tree. If your business is a tree, your branch, one of those branches, you got a branch that's Facebook, a branch that's Instagram, a branch that's LinkedIn, a branch that's Snapchat. That's your social media, and you have a branch that is wedding events and boutiques, and that's your events branch. And you've got, there's all these branches to your tree that is your business. And that tree is going to grow. Branches are going to die off of it and be replaced. That's a healthy living organism, right? The tree that never changes, never grows, never does anything, what's that thing do? It dies. You have to change and adapt. And let's be honest, you've got to figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. I'm not a Snapchat guru. So me to invest all my time in trying to grow a business on Snapchat is futile. It really is. I'm best in front of people. I've got to get in front of people. So I need to work on my skill set on getting in front of more people to be who I am. And so I do think, however, having said that, you do have to be able to learn and adapt. And so I am an advocate of paying attention to what's going on around you. I've got blinders on because I want to do what's good for me and what I'm good at. But as I turn my head, I want to be able to see if the race is way out in front of me, I'm missing something, right? I'm not looking behind me, but I will check side to side just to make sure I'm not missing it. Because if people are, I'm out there and I'm struggling, I haven't using Facebook as an example. I can't sign anybody off Facebook. Well, people are crushing it on Facebook still. And so if you're not, you're doing something wrong. And so that's not a big deal. Let's just figure that out. People are still signing their neighbors. If you're not, you're doing something wrong. So let's figure that out, right? So I think that you have to be able to adapt and change. There's so much that's changed about this, but there's still so much that's the same. There really is. It goes back to the way we may initiate and foster that relationship may be different, but the relationship is still the same. That's still the key. The way we get there may be different. The end result is that the beginning and the end is the same. The middle is a little bit different. I think it's important to adapt and pay attention to change. But I think, again, you've got to work in your core strengths and you got to go hard at them.
Sure. No, I definitely agree with that. Oh, perfect. I don't know. Creeping around here somewhere. She got me drinking from the pink jug.
It's all right.
Yeah. It's all water. Whew. I'm over here getting pumped up over here, man. I'm over here I'm writing a page worth of notes over here. So,
yeah, I don't know. I think we get so lost in some minute details. Again, if you guys take anything from me on this Zoom at all, It's like there's no right language. There's no right way to do this. There's no right branch of that tree. There's no right. You don't need to be on every Zoom and every call. But what you do need to do is get off of your butt and go do something. Action. You know, I think Pam made a good post about this today. The more I think about it, something about reading books, or I can't remember what it was. You have to go see. But no world was ever changed by simply reading the book. You got to get off the couch and actually apply it. Something like that. And it's so true. Like these Zooms are helpful, and I have a lot of experience, and sometimes experience leads to wisdom, hopefully, right? So we've done a lot of things right. We've done a lot of things wrong, and I'd be happy to tell anybody anything that we've done right or wrong. But at the end of the day, it's like at conference or events, people always walk around like, oh, what's your biggest tip? What's your biggest tip? And I tell people, you're going to hate this. I hate this question. And because people walk away pissed off from me all the time. Oh, no. I'm like, yeah, they do. Here's my tip. My tip is to stop asking people what the biggest tip is and go work. Go work your business. There is no magic dust. You're looking for a magic answer that doesn't exist. You're chasing a magic tail that doesn't exist. Go be you and be you really, really well. Go work your business. Go do it. Nike was on to something. What's their entire campaign slogan built off of? 2 words, 3 words. Just do it. Can't even count. Just do it. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Just do it. And so, like, we get so lost, to go back to my weed analogy, we get so lost in the weeds. We're trying to run down all these, and just stop worrying about all that crap and just go work. You know, I don't know what your trade is or what you do for a living now, most of you guys, but if you went into your job and instead of actually working your job, you sat and studied a manual or read a book or read online or scrolled through Facebook thinking you were working, do you think you'd keep that damn job? No. So why do we apply that methodology to this business? This is no different. So go work your business. Or for some of you, get out of the way so your woman can work her business, right? I feel like we've become a professional acquirers of knowledge. We're looking for the magic answer, the one thing that's going to set us apart. And all along, that one thing is you. You. Success or failure rests in you and you alone. No one else. You are the magic. That's it. So what is my biggest tip? Go do it. That's my biggest tip. Boring, isn't it? Good. But you'll remember it. Go do it.
I agree. I definitely agree. What do you feel is the most crucial leadership skill to possess in this business?
Man, there's no substitute for just pure determination and grit. If there's one thing, I've been in sales my whole working life, and I'm a pretty good reader of people, man. Like, I've got a pretty good vibe on people most of the time before they even speak, and certainly after they speak, I got a good read on you. And I can tell you that after being in this business and in sales for a number of years, the one thing I know to be absolutely, unequivocally, without a doubt, the most true statement you'll ever hear is that potential has nothing to do with success. Absolutely nothing to do with success. The person that has sheer grit and determination and goes out there and grinds that out, that's your successful person. They're not going to be the prettiest, the most talented, the smartest. They're going to be the one with that just pure grit that goes and gets it done. That's the successful. That's the ultra leadership skill set, man. Is to just go grind it out. It really is. I don't know. I know that's not a flashy answer. People always want the flashy stuff, and that ain't flashy, man. But that's the truth. That's the truth the way I see it. You got the best leader is the one out there. It's like that Theodore Roosevelt quote, or Teddy Roosevelt quote. You know, the guy that's in the arena, the one that's in the arena, man, battling out. That's where valor is. That's where the true leadership is. For the ones that were too afraid to ever get in the arena, those are the ones that don't matter, right? But they got in the arena and they stood on the side. I want the guy out there fighting. Get in the fight, man. Get out there and do something. Be in the arena. I'll have to find that quote. Y'all know probably what I'm talking about. Post it in the cave again. But I don't know. Grit. That's the best leader out there is the one with the most grit to get it done.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that, man. At the end of the day, we got to think.
Billy Bob asked me, do me or Lori handle charting? In our business, Lori handles most of the charting because she's really good at it. She's good at it. I mean, she can see, she's got that viewpoint. I've helped people with charting a lot. But if you want to say, like, yeah, Quintin's good. Well, Lori's super good. Like, I mean, so that's definitely her skill set more than mine.
I'll actually ask you a question on charting.
Yes.
When it comes to your charting, do you chart more or less for rank, or do you chart for bank? And do you I mean, it's one of those things where I guess it's technically like, well, technically you got to chase the rank to chase the bank, but at the same time, I mean, do you guys stack? Do you guys replace? Like, how do you guys kind of figure in your charting?
Well, I think it was about 4 years ago. I can remember where we were. We were driving down the road. It would have been in 13. Yeah, so almost 4 years ago. We were just driving down the road, and we came up with that phrase in our heads, like, chase the bank instead of the rank. I think so often, so many times people are chasing the rank, and they're not chasing the bank. And that's ego-driven. But sometimes those go together. And here's the deal. At the end of the day, I don't really care what your number is or what your rank is or any of that crap. What I care about is that you're providing for your family and that you're making income that matters. That's what matters, man. That's what's the real deal. And so I'm not going to ever tell anyone to chase rank over bank. I will tell you to chase bank over rank, but sometimes they are associated and go together. So to answer your specific question, I feel like our business is a game. You know, it's like a chess match, and they have laid out for us the path to win that game. You know, we have charts for a reason. You fill them in for a reason. It's part of the plan. There's a reason our steps to success is built off of 4 loyal customers and 3 distributors. Once you have 3 distributors and 4 loyal customers and you're teaching them all to do the same, you're naturally building rubies. Our business is built around rubies. You got 2 rubies, you got an emerald. You got an emerald and a ruby, you got a diamond, and so on and so forth. Our entire plan is built around those steps to success and that model of building rubies. So our methodology, even before there were steps to success, even before there were ruby bonuses, we always focused on building rubies because that's the way the entire structure of our compensation plan was laid out. And so I feel like you've been given a game, you've been given the rules to the game, and you've been given the exact roadmap to win the game. All you have to do is fill the places in on the board and keep working that board. So I think charting is essential. I think sometimes you gotta do things you don't want to do. You gotta put people in places you don't want to put them because you got to build. You gotta build and do it right and play the game. At the same time, you know, sometimes things don't work out, and I moved this pawn over here, and that rook took it, and crap, now I got to build over again. And so, you know, it doesn't always work out the way you plan, but there's the defined roadmap, and you got to stick with that roadmap. So I think charting is essential, and I'm always an advocate of charting for bank before rank.
I agree. We're very, very similar in that mindset. I would rather chart and me miss, like, for perfect example, last month, we could have charted and I could have hit double diamond, but it doesn't benefit me to hit double diamond for 1 month and then lose my bonus the next month.
100% agree with that. People don't get that. I have had that conversation more times. See, when we started, there weren't these bonuses, and these bonuses are a double-edged sword for people in leadership. They are kind of a nasty necessary because they do encourage people to push ranks that can never maintain them, and then coding is lost, and it's kind of a mess. And so you should never push a rank that you cannot maintain. There's no reason to do it. There just isn't. And so I go back to that same story. You know, a lot of times when you got multiple accounts that you're working and where do I build and how do I build it, always build to pay yourself the most money. That's why you're doing this.
Yeah, I guess.
It's so basic, but we get caught up in the game. We get caught up in comparison. We get caught up in all that stuff that at the end of the day, look, man, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is your God and your 4 walls that hold your family. Those are the people that are dear to you and providing for those folks. So why am I chasing a number or a rank or any of that stuff? I'm chasing bank because that's what takes care of my family. So that's my 2 cents on that, though.
I will definitely agree with that 100%. Somebody did ask a question. If you want to drop your tips for making your friends list larger.
Yeah, I think that's pretty easy, actually. You know, when you start to look at anything, and I think you were using Facebook as the example here, but when you start to look at anything other than just an avenue to be yourself, when you start seeing it as an actual business tool, then you have to look at it through that lens. And so my friends list isn't a friends list. It becomes a hundreds list, or a warm market list, or a potential leads list, and I get it. So that's going to rub some people. Like, social media wasn't built for that. And you guys are, network marketers are turning it into a business. Yeah, well, okay. So what? And so I still have friends. And look, Facebook's really great because it will allow you to create lists within it. And so when I got a post that I don't want to annoy you guys, if you go to my timeline, you probably will hardly ever see It Works hardcore related stuff. But if you saw it from my eyes, you'd see it all the time. I'm just doing targeted posts because I've built lists of leads. And when I make those It Works posts, they're going out to the people that I want them to go out to. It's not just a general public post. So there's a smarter way to work Facebook. But to the immediate question, you just have to change your mindset about how you're building it and how you view your friends list, and start adding people to it. And you're going to find that you're meeting new people. Your kids are in sports. You're working out at a gym and you met some new people, or you're playing softball. You met some new people in league. And, there's so many different ways to meet people. And all those people, like, what's the first thing anybody does? Even going back to blitzing, we don't really blitz for phone numbers. We blitz for Facebook connections. When we're out there, when we do blitz, and we do blitz, even though I'll talk against it, but we do blitz. We're blitzing to add to our Facebook presence. And we're like, that's the first thing. When we get in a legit conversation off of a cold blitz, one of the first things my wife will do, she'll be like, oh, are you on Facebook? Yeah. Oh, what's your name? I'll look you up real quick. Boom, I just seen a friend request. Let's connect on Facebook. And then what she'll do is, she's going to add them to a list so that she's following them. And it's all part of building that presence. And I'm just going to drip on people. I want them to see my life. And it's attraction marketing, not pushing stuff on them. Can you elaborate more on that target posting? Yeah, if you don't, that's something. If you're not target posting, you're missing the bank on Facebook. When you get off of here, just Google how to create lists on Facebook. And then it's really simple. You'll find probably multiple tutorials on how to do it. It's really just a matter of going through. You create the list, and you can add your current friends list to it. You can organize them. And so then when you go make a post, so hey, I'm out at the baseball game, boom, snap a picture of me and my son. I upload that on my phone and I post it. My default setting is to post to public. So that's going out for the world to see. Well, the world is really only like less than 3% of your friends list that's actually going to see, unless there's a lot of connectivity and activity on that. Then Facebook sees that as a relevant post and it pushes it out to more. But you can kind of tweak that by saying, hey, let's say I use that same picture and it was I'll use a better example. I'm chugging a energy drink and I take a picture of that, boom, and I'm going to upload that on my phone. Well, I don't want that to go to public because I don't want it to be wasted. I've created a list for potential It Works leads. And I'm going to post that picture, and in the bottom of it, you can click, instead of public, you can choose the list. And so I'll choose It Works leads. And so that post out there, and then my 4% is that pool of people instead of the general public. And so it's called targeted post. You can Google that too, but it's pretty easy, and it's a much more successful and efficient way to target and to use business posts.
Do you utilize groups at all?
In what context?
Well, do you ever utilize groups? So like me personally, like I'll become a part of a couple different groups, and I'll just interact in there and just honestly post content of value, so to speak, to kind of build and grow my network that way. Because I find that whenever you do that, and you're not like, if I ever join a group, and I always tell anybody, if you guys ever join groups, do not post, hey guys, I'm part of It Works, come in, that's spam. You don't want to do that. And a lot of times they're going to kick you out of the group. But yeah. Do you have to utilize groups for just building relationships?
I do. And as an example, and I think it's just an extension of who you are. I'm not in a lot of them because I think you really have to focus in those. Yeah. But I have, I'll give you a really good example. I'm a Jeep guy. So the Jeep is kind of like its own little cult. We've got a cult-like following in a way. And so there's a lot of Jeep groups on Facebook. So I'm in like 2 or 3 local Kansas City Jeep groups. I've done Jeep nights where I'm out there meeting people I didn't know before, all via my connection through having in a Jeep and being a Jeep enthusiast. And so, I'll hop out there and we'll post pictures of Jeeping out in Wyoming or, wash my Jeep or different stuff. You get it. And I'm only using that as an example, but that's an extension of who I am. And so that I'm not just joining a group that I'm just trying to fit into and meet people. I actually have a connection to it. I actually do love Jeeps. I love looking at other people's Jeeps. I like that interaction. And so that's a micro example of a macro question, but absolutely I do that. And it's a good way to expand upon your warm market too. Like I'll give you a really good example. I'm a big fisherman. And so I fish up at this private lake all the time. And there's a fishing forum for that lake. And there's only 150 dudes in there, but we're always, sharing what's working or what the water temperature is or what's going on at the lake or posting pictures of our fish. I probably friended 30 or 40 dudes from that group alone. And it's a really small group, but it's a very niche thing. You know what I mean? I do care about what they care about. Like I want to know, hey guys, did anybody go out fishing yesterday? What was the water temperature? What was hitting? What was the water clarity? That's a legit conversation I care about. And so it's already an extension of who I am. So whatever your jam is, man, find the right toast and spread all that jam on it. So it's just an extension of who you are.
Sure. You mentioned, and just a couple more questions because I don't want to keep you too long. You mentioned attraction marketing. Can you talk about the importance of branding yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I know you're huge on this branding yourself part, and I'm not going to debate that. I think there's a massive amount of value in that if that's what you're going to do. There seems to be a trend in network marketing, especially like everybody wants to brand themselves as a guru. I get it. I mean, I'm an advocate and believer of multiple streams of income. I'm not an advocate of multiple MLMs. I think you're crossing the wires there. You're sending mixed messages. But my wife and I, it works hard. We've worked this business hard. I got too much vested. I care about the company. I care about the people. But yeah, man, we have rentals. We do other things. So we have multiple streams of income. But as far as branding yourself, I think branding yourself for some people is an important part of what they're trying to accomplish. For me, it's never been something that is a huge I kind of tread lightly on answering this question because I'm not trying to position myself as some expert or guru or motivational speaker I have some of those skill sets. I really do. But, my jam is in other things. And so I'm investing my time in what matters to me, and branding myself to be something in this industry like that isn't on my list, I guess I'll say. So I see value in it if that is your target, if that is your desire. So I think you can feel me dancing around that answer.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so I get why people want to brand themselves. I definitely get it. But for me, I'm me. And so I'm not looking to brand me. I'm okay with branding myself attached to It Works because that's where I'm at. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm not trying to be Lori network marketing guru with my CD series. I'm not trying to do that. So I'll post videos that are free for you guys all day long and respond to messages and create groups that, I'm just me, man. And I'm me and I'm free. So I'm not trying to brand myself to make money off that.
Sure. What has been your best tool for signing loyal customers and distributors?
Best tool?
Yeah.
My mouth. There's no secondary tool. Like everything that you're doing in this business is trying to get to here. Like people hide behind this computer, they hide behind their phone, when really the magic happens when this thing is running. When I'm in front of people and I can talk to them and communicate to them, they can feel my passion, they can understand where I'm at, they can hear the deflection of the tones of my voice, the way I emphasize what's important to me. When I'm speaking to a human being, that's my most powerful tool. And I would argue 99% of you, it's your most powerful tool too. The lost art of actually speaking to human beings is what's going wrong with this business. There's been too many people come out and they're all flashy, sassy, and I've done all, the glamour girls of It Works and all that crap with Instagram or whatever. Look, there's a place for that, and I think that all of those things are, I gotta go back to my tree analogy, those are branches of the tree, but this is the roots of that tree, man. Like talking and being you and getting it, it's the lost art of conversation. We hide too much behind the computer and the phone and Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook messages. And look, the magic is in your mouth.
I agree with that. And I feel like that's actually a lot of that has come since the social media itself has really kind of exploded.
Yeah.
I actually did a video, I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, and I was talking about when nowadays when you're dealing with trying to necessarily recruit these younger distributors, a lot of them lack people skills, and it's very, very crazy to me. And it's not to say that there's anything wrong with it, but it's because they grew up in a generation where they're sending text messages, where they're sending, they're sending voice messages through Instagram or Facebook or however they're doing, whatever that they're doing. We grew up in a generation where you had to pass a note through class, and everybody had that note to talk to the girl at the other end of the classroom,
Yeah, but you know what? But you got to embrace that too. So it goes back to what you were talking about with change. And so I think that speaking to human beings is a lost art, but I think that there's absolutely an avenue to be successful. Even if you're a shy, timid person, I believe that you can be anybody you want to be on social media. That is a positive. If you're willing to hump it out and work and grind, and you're super shy, but you're willing to grind it out, you can make it happen. That's the magic. So, I feel like if I step back, I feel like maybe I've been a little bit haterish on social media, and I'm not that at all. I don't want you to get that vibe. Like, we grow our business, half of our business is grown on social media. And so I'm not hating on it at all. And I'm not hating on young people, because that's just that's that generation. It goes back to that change question. I've got to be able to adapt to that. Yep, they're not the most personality-oriented person, and they're not good in front of people. So guess what? I'm not going to put them in front of people. If you can rock and roll on Instagram, DMing people, and Facebook, instant message them, then by all means, rock out with your bad self. And so, but I do feel like you asked me what my biggest tool was, is this thing right here.
Sure. I'm right there with you. That's why I feel like whenever I go to make my live videos, I feel like sometimes I got to cut my videos a little bit short, because I will talk and I will talk and I will talk. Yeah. Same thing when I'm in person. I feel like that was probably my biggest mistake when I first started. I talked too much.
Yeah, but then, it's funny. I agree with that. First of all, I'm the same way. I've really set myself a limit. Like, a 3-minute video is still too long, but man, I got to keep everything at 3 minutes under. That's my magic number. But you've got people like Jade Hooper. I don't understand that woman, but man, people love her, and she just will get on there and talk about random stuff. If you've ever watched a video of Jade Hooper, you'd be like, what? But people love that, and so there's something about it. I shouldn't say people. Some people are really drawn to that. I'm not, but I'm just one person. You know what I mean? And so it goes back to what I said before. You just got to be you. Stop trying to conform and bend yourself to be anybody but you. There's a market for the person who wants to ramble for 30 minutes on a live video, and there's a market for the person that's going to keep things to 3 minutes, and there's a market for the guy that's up there amped up and doing things at 10 minutes at a time. There's a market for all of that. You just got to do you and do it right.
Agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I want to make sure there's no other questions that were posted, because I could ask you 100 more questions, and I'm not trying to keep you here for 3 hours.
I'm good, man. There's still people here. Like, I don't see a lot of people bailing off, so I must be saying some things that are all right.
No, and like I said, that's my biggest thing. If you want to stay, bro, our first men's Zoom went 3 hours because we just were talking, and we're putting in valuable content out there, and we're literally, if you don't mind, I will.
Yeah, ask me if you know. I'm good.
Sure.
I might go get something to drink in a minute, but ask me a couple more questions.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you feel that, I'm trying to think exactly how to put this. Do you feel that competition between your team is a good thing, and why or why not?
Man, that's a really big question. This goes back to personality types. So the answer to your question is yes and no. For some people, competition is what they thrive for. Those dominant red personalities, man, they want that competition. They need that competition. And quite frankly, this may not be a popular statement, but most of the ultra successful people in this business are red. So that's important. Having said that, there is just as a big of importance to that community supportive, warm, fuzzy, yellow type of environment as well. Especially because we're talking about women primarily, right? Our businesses are, I don't even know, 97% women. So it isn't all about this red competitive nature. Although I will say this, I thought that by and large men were the competitive sex. Like, we were the ones that are based on competition. And now that I've been in this business for 6 years and watched these women, man, we're not even on the radar. These women are ultra competitive. And so I think competition is important to an extent. Yes, I believe in pushing people via let's say it this way. I said this to Pam Souter just yesterday when she was texting me about numbers. And I said, you know what? I don't care about what my number is, my ranked number. What I care about is my income. I know that number is only a motivational tool for people who are competitive. And she's like, that's exactly right. I'm the most person what's a little bit unique about me and Lori is I've never really been competitive against, in this business especially, against other people. I'm ultra competitive against myself. So when I look around and I see like, oh man, well my number is this and there's so many people ahead of me, that has nothing to do with people ahead of me. That has everything to do with me, knowing that these people around me or ahead of me or even behind me are no better or worse. Like I can do better. And what am I willing to do? You know, I always tell our team this. There's going to be someone out there who's willing to sacrifice more, who's willing to put in more hours, who's willing to dedicate more, who's willing to give up more. There's always someone out there. So striving for this competitive nature has to have its limit. And that limit has to be internal competition. Like I strive for competition, but back and forth with Lori and I, it's always because I know we can perform at a certain level, right? We can do this. I know we can do it. So our competition has never really been against other people, although I still can see value in that. You know, who doesn't like to win a race, a foot race? You know, it's no good to run a race and I shouldn't say it's no good. Yeah, maybe I ran a better time, but it's really fun when you run a better time and you're racing 10 other people and you were number one. So I see the value in it, but I also know that one of Satan's biggest tools, man, is comparison, and he lives in emotion. And when we start comparing ourselves to people and we start getting down or are ultra competitive or pissed and when we're looking side to side, that's when the enemy seems to creep up on our shoulders. And so you got to really be careful with that competition. I think it can be a healthy tool, and you can use it, but I think you got to be sparingly with it because you don't want to create division.
Sure. No, I definitely agree with that. I've always been one to believe that I feel like competition, it pushes people, and especially me being a dominant red personality. And my red has really gone like through the roof as you continue to grow in this business, which I guess that's just normal. As you continue to develop more leadership skills as a whole, you really do start to jack that red up. But yeah, I don't ever, what's the best way to put this? And somebody had asked me that. They said, you know, if you had to compare yourself, or if you were trying to be somebody in this business, who would you be? I said, I wouldn't be anybody. I would be myself. Right. I don't ever compare myself to anybody in the business. Do I want to be the next, you know, Quintin Conway, or do I want to be the next Joel Dunn? They're great guys. I don't want to be the next of them. I want to be my own self, and that's how I feel. And I've never looked at anybody as competition in business. I look at everybody kind of as an asset to be able to use. I use other people's success as inspiration on myself, but I don't hold their success against them, so to speak, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense to me. And I think that's where it gets dangerous. There's a really fine line there. And honestly, a lot of people don't have that level of maturity. You know, they see competition as a me or you, and they never can see it as a we. And I think that's when competition is dangerous. So I'm all about, man, I can address this in so many ways. I'm a red personality mostly, but I'm not driven by how good you are doing or not doing. I'm driven by how good I am or not doing.
Correct.
It really has nothing to do with you for the most part. And so I understand ranks and I get numbers, but really at the end of the day, I'm going to go back and say the same thing. What I care about is the income that's coming into my house, because I know we can perform at a certain level. And if we're not meeting that level, then I'm ultra competitive with that. I don't know. But as soon as I say that, you know, there's a part of you, a piece of you that wants to win that competition, that wants to be number one. You know, I tell my team, I tell people this all the time. You know, who was number 23? I don't know. Who was number 56? I don't know. Who was number 1? Duns. You remember that one, don't you?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. You either are number – it's like Ricky Bobby, man. If you ain't first, you're last. And so we get so caught up in these damn numbers. The only one that really matters is number 1. So if you ain't number 1, why are you comparing yourself against the number? Compare yourself against you and you alone. That's where you got to focus. And I can prove it. Like who was number 7? You know? Who was number 23? Nobody knows. That's the point. Like, you get caught up in this number, but nobody else gives a crap because they're only focused on themselves. So why are we focused on anybody else but ourselves, right? My competition comes from me, not anybody else.
That's an awesome way to put it. That's a really, really good way to put it. And it is the truth. I mean, it's exactly the truth, exactly what you said. How do you build support for ideas? How do you support people? Okay, so you guys have a very, very large organization underneath you. How do you support the ideas and the goals for the people that don't report directly to you but are still in your organization? I mean, do you guys?
Well, first of all, I don't think anyone reports to me.
No, I know. I worded that wrong. I worded that wrong.
How do I support? Ask your question a little bit differently to me.
How do you support the people that are in your organization that maybe? Let's just avoid that question. I'm trying to think of the best way to put it, and I can't really think of a good way to put it. It's like I want to say it one way, but I can't say it. And even how I have it wrote down, it's just it kind of. Yeah,
I think the way I support people is to be the leader that I am, to be all sorts of me, to be a whole lot of me, and to let them be a whole lot of them. So, like, I don't try to stifle them. I do try to keep people together. I told you that before. But, you know, like I said, we've got, I don't remember, 30-something ambassadors underneath us. And so for me to try to keep people who maybe your question was, you know, like, how do you work with people who are underneath you but not your direct in roles, you know, or something, you know, or maybe not coded to you? I feel like there's so many working pieces to what an organization is. Coding is a piece of that. Direct enrollment is a piece of that. But all those people, you know, even when you're outside of my 5 or my coding, my 5 levels or my coding, when you're outside of my immediate compensation, you're still part of an organization. And I go back to that idea that there's power in community. And so all those people have a place. And so I supported it by fostering an environment where they can be themselves, where they can connect with their own uplines, where they can still connect with us. So I think maybe that's an answer to your question.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was. Yeah, like how do you basically support the people that are outside of your compensation plan, so to speak, is what.
Yeah, you just have to be really careful with your time because at the end of the day, man, we just have to be mindful. This is a business. And I don't feel bad about saying that. I'm doing what I'm doing to generate income. And so because of that, you have to be protective of your time. And so I can't be giving a ton of time to people I'm not making money on. That's just the truth. I want to be there for you. I will create an environment for you to succeed. But as far as me, like all the time on one-on-one, no, I can't do that. I got to, you know, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. And you got to have a balance in there. And so you do have to draw some lines as far as your time is concerned, maybe.
Sure. Yeah. And that definitely comes with leveraging time. And by the way, I appreciate you jumping on this Zoom with us for sure. Where was the next one I was going to ask you? Again, I'll just ask you a couple more and then I'll let you go.
Yeah.
I will definitely keep you. Where did that question go? That's where it was. I was like, wait, I was just looking for one. Follow-ups. How many times do you follow up with somebody until you move on? And can you talk about how the fortune is in the follow-up? I'm a huge advocate of it.
That's a frequent question. Like, you know, I'd say that's probably one of the top 5 things we get asked, you know, is trying to create a magical recipe for follow-up, and there isn't. There just isn't. Because every person's different, every lead is different, every scenario, every conversation is different. I will say this as a general tip: everything you are communicating with, via text or email or message, or even phone calls, you need to learn how to speak in question so that you end what you're saying in a question, so that there is an expectation that they are to respond, and so that when they don't respond, there's various ways that you can respond to that. But you are creating the expectation that I expect, you know, that there should be an answer. And so I think too many times when people are like, well, you know, how do you know how many times you should follow up? Well, how did you leave the last thing you said? What was open-ended? Guess what then? You need to follow up with a question. Well, I did follow up with a question and then they answer it. Well, what was the question? And here's what you have to keep in mind. Most of the time, and not every time, but most of the time, life just happens, man. You know, you're asking a question and, geez, I mean, Johnny messaged me several times and I was having problems with Messenger one day and, you know, he sent me a text and I thought I had answered the question. And he's like, hey, we still good for that? I'm like, wow, crap, I thought I answered that. You know what I mean? And so, like, you can just, black and white is flawed by nature, so when you're just communicating with people via text or email or messaging, that's a recipe for miscommunication. And so sometimes you just get your wires crossed, or someone's not understanding your true intent. So there's no magic to follow up. I say, I don't like the idea of chasing, I'm not going for no. I hate that book. I hate that concept. I'm not going for no. You're going for no. You're doing the wrong damn thing. I'm going for yes. And so I understand the concept. I take contention with it. So,
Sure.
You do need to be following up until somebody's telling you yes or no. And I think last year, or maybe the year before, we did a call with Pam, and I told people, like, we had gone back through, like, we work off these notebooks. This isn't a notebook, this one's a binder, but like, here's one. These are all leads, right? And so, like, we'll go back through these leads, and I'll look at my notes on these leads, and I'll be like, man, 5/7/16, bought from a friend, 90-day challenge. Well, that was a dead lead because she went with somebody else, And I'll go back through all these leads. We have notebooks and notebooks and notebooks of legal pads that we keep leads on, and we'll go through and we'll look at the last date and find the conversation and what was my fault. What was the last thing I said? Oh, I should probably follow up with that person. Or, if I haven't heard from someone in a long time, be like, hey man, I asked you a question. I hope I didn't offend you or bother you. I know life just happens. Like, just following back up. Like, what did you, I don't know what the scenario is. What'd you think? Or, I'm rambling, but there's no magic to that. It's all dependent upon the situation. And I really do think you should chase those people to a yes or a no. And I really believe no doesn't mean no. It means not right now.
Right.
Because life happens. And so you should keep following up with people. If they're people especially, keep following up with them.
I agree with that. What do you do what's the biggest tip that you have for increasing your retention with customers and distributors?
Be in front of them. You got to be in front of them, man. And that's the one thing, like,
You mean like face-to-face?
No, not necessarily face-to-face, but like I work with I've been on corporate's butt about this. We need a whole retention department, in my opinion, with people whose sole dedication is retention of customer service, of distributors and loyal customers. That's the only thing they should focus on. But I think what we need to do as individuals is constantly stay, like we do, we'll create private group pages for loyal customers, and we'll run like incentives, or we'll like, hey, like as an example, we got free shipping right now. When we have all of our loyal customers in a page on Facebook, I can go in there and make a post and say, hey, did y'all know that we got free shipping right now? It's summer's here. I know y'all want wraps. Now would be a great time to buy them because you're saving, $5 or $6 on shipping them. And so things like that. I think you have to stay in front of them, constant contact, whether that's text or email or groups that you've created. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But you do have to stay in constant contact with them. As far as distributors, retention magically happens when people are making money. So that goes back to building a business. You got to teach them how, once people are, when you're a Ruby and you're making $500 a month, magically you seem to retain yourself in this business. So that goes back to building a business.
Sure. No, I definitely agree. All right. So last question. What do you feel is the importance of a mentor?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that what is the importance? That's definitely an impossible way to define that, but I'll articulate it by saying I think that you have to surround yourself with people who are constantly pushing you to be a better version of yourself, challenging you to think differently and act differently and be better. Mentors are people who have either wisdom or experience or both, or success. And you need people in your life who you aspire to be and who you aspire to be like. And mentorship is a part of that. And so whether that be, mentors in your spiritual life or your physical life, or with having a personal trainer, or whether that be personal development where you've got mentors who are challenging you to go through a book together, or even, I've got guys in my life who challenge me or might be, I still have mentors from when I was young who helped me, were almost like father figures in my spiritual life. And I think that the role of a true mentor, and there are very few mentors in your life, but the true mentor is possibly more profound than your parents in some instances. And so I can't say enough about the importance of mentors. And, that's a heavy answer, but mentors could be something as simple as, I like a guy like Richard Branson who does what he wants, how he wants, and he kind of is a self-made man to a certain degree, and I like that, and I aspire to be like him, and I'm going to read his books and follow him on socials, and that's like a 50,000 foot view of a mentor because he's not really directly mentoring you. And then there's that one-on-one coaching, mentoring, that person that's pushing you to achieve more and be more and do more. And I think it's huge because I think we as human beings are just weak. We're made to be weak, and we are always better together. I go back, I think a mentor is essential. I'll just leave it at that.
Sure. Do you have anything else you wanted to kind of add on or touch on before we end?
Yeah, I don't know where all you guys are in your life with this business, but there's so many moving parts and so many intricacies to what we're doing. Like I feel like, again, I don't think it's overstated. There's so many of you, if you would just go out there and do it. Like I feel like this isn't brain surgery. Cody Chapman's a good friend of mine. He said to me one time, he said, this business is really easy. You just have to do the easy every day. And that couldn't be more true. We just get lost in distractions and busyness, and we're not doing anything. Or the things that we are doing aren't making us money. So we feel like maybe we're doing something, but they're not income-producing activities. There's a big difference between being busy and doing income-producing activities. And I think we often, all of us, myself included, get caught up in doing non-income producing activities, feeling like we're working our business or that we're busy, which is a terrible, terrible word. Like somehow busy has become some type of a positive word, and busy is not a good word. Busy just means I'm filling the gaps with stuff that's not important. We need to get away from being busy and get towards being intentional. And that's what I feel like. I feel like if we could just, I don't know, maybe I'm weird, but I feel like I talk to myself all the time. Like I feel like I step out and I look down and I'm like, dude, why aren't you doing this? Or why are you doing this? Or how come you haven't tried this? And I feel like if we were more objective with ourselves and could look in the mirror or rise above ourselves and say, am I really doing the stuff I think I am? Am I really working my business the way I should be? Am I really in my spouse or significant other's way? Am I really just being a dick when I should step out and let them work? If we really were a lot more objective about what we're doing, what we're not doing, and how we're doing it, I think we can make some tweaks and go apply the tweaks, actually go apply them. We would see profound changes in our life. And it doesn't take a lot. Sometimes the smallest little tweak, me and Lori talk about this all the time. Like if you just, I wish we could actually measure the difference of 15 minutes, just 15 minutes of pure intentionality every single day, what it would make in your business. If you only 15 minutes, think about that. You spend more time on the crapper probably. 15 minutes of being intentional about doing absolutely nothing but working this business in some fashion. Pick 3 things, whatever your 3 things that you're really good at. If you took only 15 minutes and you did nothing else but those 3 things, what kind of change we could see? I bet it'd be remarkable. So multiply that exponentially, Now it's not 15, now it's 30 or 2 hours or 4 hours. Or what if we, dare I say, what if we actually treated this business like a job and worked it? What if we actually applied 8 hours of intentionality to this? I think most of us are deceived into thinking that we're working when we're not working. Do you agree with that?
I 100% agree with that. We do a time exercise because I will always have people that go, well, I just don't feel, I don't feel, how do I make money? And the very first thing I ask them is, okay, well, how much time are you actually putting into this? And they'll go, oh, well, I don't know. So, we have a time exercise and I'll break down the time and make them realize, first off, you're wasting a lot of time on stuff that's not income producing. How we were talking about earlier, you can be getting poured into by 10 different people. And you can be listening to all the self-development. You can be listening to everything in the world that's going on with your business. And you can be listening to 100 different people telling you what's right and what's wrong. And you can be doing self-development. And you can be scrolling through Facebook and liking and interacting and be talking to people. And
it's just not, some of the stuff we do is just not income producing. Now, does it happen? Yes, it happens. And sometimes we have to have that mental break where we step away and we do relax and we come down, and it's, you know, you've got to have time where you step away. I go to the gym daily. I do message people in the gym, but one of my things is like every day whenever I wake up, before I even get started with my day, I don't even look at, I have all my notifications off on my phone. I will not look at my notifications. First off, I want to start my day in a positive manner. The last thing I want is a loyal customer or a distributor telling me about this person came from a, if you're gonna put me in a shitty mood from the start of my day, I don't even want it. I don't want to deal with it. So I start my day off very different, and then sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's an hour and a half, sometimes it's 2 hours, and then I get back to really, really kind of answering the team and getting, you know, focusing on what it is. But it's just like what we always say: there is no rap emergency, and you know, at the end of the day, we've got to really, really focus on what is making us money, and whether that's, again, you can, if you're sitting there and you're spending all day long messaging people, but you're not bringing up the business opportunity whenever the right timing is there, the opportunity is there, you're wasting your time. You know, if you're on Facebook and you're scrolling through and you're not building relationships with the purpose of more or less, to say it, pitching them the business or getting them involved in the business or getting them a product, whatever it is, that's not income producing. If you're going through your day and you're looking at things as, this is what I need to be doing, this is where I'm going, and I've got to do this to achieve my goals, that all comes with writing your goals out. And I'm huge on writing a to-do list every day. It definitely saves me. I have to write a to-do list. I have to know every single day, like, what I'm doing. And that has kind of helped me with really, really kind of staying on track, so to speak.
Yeah, I just want to add something to that. First of all, I agree with you. I'm just going to show you my phone. I have 2 notifications. You can't see what that is, but those are both Bleacher Report, which is sports app. I know at least 10 texts have heard my phone vibrating. I know Facebook messages and Instagram stuff. You don't see any of those notifications on this phone, right? The only thing that I get is Bleacher Report. So I think that is important, just so we're on the same page. I agree with that completely. Yep. And this isn't necessarily for all of you guys, but for those who are a 1%er or are married to a 1%er, I think one of the biggest things that you have to figure out how to do is to disconnect from this. The absolute worst part of this business is that it's always on you, always on. Either 9 to 5, at least you can clock in and clock out. You can never do that here. And you have to be intentional about scheduling, scripting, and sticking to a time to disconnect. You have to. Otherwise, it will consume you nonstop, and it will make you cranky, and it'll do terrible things to your marriage, and it'll, you know, I can tell you, when we first started this, guys, you know, I love my wife more than any human being alive. And I cannot tell you how terrible blowout fights we had because she was so consumed by this. I wanted to absolutely demolish every phone she's ever owned, right? So we've been to the point of, I mean, just hellacious breakdown. Like, you don't hear this stuff on stage, do you? Right? Like, we're both bold, strong personalities, so we can fight like the best of them. And so we've had those blow-ups, you know, and what we had to do was get to a point in our relationship, and this doesn't apply to everybody, but it definitely applies to those who are married to a 1% or in a relationship with them. Or even for you personally, you have to figure out a way to draw lines in your life. And we had to set rules, you know, and I'll give you just a really small example. When she was going at this so gung-ho, there would be a week where we didn't go to bed at the same time. And it started to do very bad things for our relationship, as you might imagine. And we had big blow-up fights, and we had set a simple rule that said, and I don't even remember what it was, but this is like 6 years ago, but you know, every Tuesday and Thursday, or every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, she went to bed at the same time. Now, I'm not talking about sex. I'm just talking about physically laying down. I'm putting everything down, and I'm prioritizing going and laying in bed and being with you. Let's go to sleep together, right? That meant something to me. It prioritized me. You know, it gave me value. It showed that I can go on and on. Or how about this? It's something as simple. This is our household rule. So it started as a rule for her. It trickled over to a rule for me, and now it applies as a rule to our kids. We almost every single night we sit down as a family together to have dinner. Almost every single night. And your phone is not allowed on that table. Whether that's my phone or her phone or the kid's phone, nobody gets out of their phone at the table. For that 15 minutes that we're eating dinner, it's just family dinner time. And that sounds like something like, that's pretty dramatic, but it makes a huge difference to just take that time to prioritize your family and to send a message, set a leadership example that says, everyone sitting at this square is the most important thing to me in the world right now, and nothing else will distract that. So simple things like that we've had to institute. And I would say big things like, man, take a day off or a half a day off every week and stick to it. Every Sunday afternoon, you are 100% not working, or whatever works for you. And I don't know what it is, but you've got to carve out a time where it's just you or just your family. You have to do that. You have to disconnect.
I agree. I will definitely agree. Yeah, Nat and I are very, very similar in that aspect. I mean, we both work. I wake up a little bit earlier than she does. She works a little bit later than I do. It's funny. We left the nightlife because we were tired of the nighttime hours, yet we work until 5 in the morning and 8 in the morning. And it's like, man, yeah. And then, but yeah, at the same time though, we do make it a priority to where, we do sit down at the dinner table, we do eat dinner together, and you've got to have that. And that it will, in fact, it instills those ethics. And when we do have children, because we don't have children yet, but when we do have children, we want them to understand exactly what it is, exactly what you guys are doing. And I think that's great. I know her family's the same way. She comes from a family that's very, very big on, like, when we're eating dinner, we're here together, and that's how it is. Because you've got to have time. You've got to make time for each other, especially when you're in a relationship. And that's, that is definitely a key to making sure that it's healthy, and that, I find that a lot of guys that don't work this business, they don't really understand that concept of, like, why is she always on her phone? Why is she doing it? Like, why is she on her phone? I don't understand it.
Yeah.
And it's, hey, I understand. We've had a lot of our distributors that have enrolled with us that are women, and they get discouraged because their significant other they just don't understand it. And hey, this business isn't made for everybody. It's not. And as much as we like to believe it is an opportunity for everybody, this business is not for everybody. Some people just,
I agree.
And, at the end of the day, I think what really, really will separate is if you are someone that doesn't understand it, because we have in the past, we've had, and I'm not sure exactly who, there might be a couple of guys on here that they don't work the business, but they do play the more supportive role. You've got to make sure that no matter what, I mean, if you can help her out and if you can help her with the little things, I will definitely tell you it makes all the difference around the house. That will give you that time that you need to be with one another. Whereas if you're not doing those little things to help her by, maybe going and running to the post office or cooking dinner or taking care of the kids or whatever it is, you're going to find that it is going to get very, very lonely, and it gets very, very stressful, and it will cause and lead to more fights. So that's one thing I think that I've taken from a lot of our distributors that have had significant others that aren't very supportive of the situation. But at the end of the day, like what we said, this business is only for about 10% of people that are going to get started. I've started to learn that. And, the only thing you can really do is just give everybody the tools to be successful, keep it simple. And I mean, you preached it, steps to success. I mean, and that's really what it is.
Well, magically paychecks will change everyone's perspectives, right? So, it's if you're out there humping it out, and that phone is a necessary devil, in some ways, in a lot of ways, it's usually, if you've got a paycheck to go along with it, it sure makes that phone a lot more tolerable. But I still think you can set boundaries that make sense for both of you. It's just part of communicating. Sure. And, because sometimes, her or you, whoever being on that phone all the time, is sending a message that you don't intend to send. And sometimes they don't understand why you're on it. And so it's part of communication. Like, I don't mean to send this message, and I don't want to send that message. At the same time, this is my paycheck. This is what's putting food on that table. And so you've got to understand that. And so that's a part of healthy communication. But again, creating boundaries that make sense for both of you will go a long way for that. You don't have to be on your phone 24/7.
No.
Nobody does. No. And so we can create boundaries around that make sense for everybody.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. All right, Quintin. Well, I definitely appreciate it, sir. Pleasure having you on. And I definitely do appreciate it. If you guys have any other questions, I don't see anything on here. Epic, no. Yeah, I don't see any other questions. So, yeah, guys, I definitely appreciate it. Other than that, yeah, I mean, awesome Zoom. Definitely appreciate it, sir. Green carpet?
See you guys.
Green carpet?
We're not sure. We got our kids go to long story. Our kids go to church camp that same or around that same time, and we're having a hard time figuring out that back and forth. So to be determined on green carpet. We've had it paid for